Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to visualize a place.
Okay.
You know the place. It's Friday night, you're hungry, you walk into a room with dim lighting, and maybe there's a mural of a gondola on the wall that looks a little questionable.
I'm picturing it. The tables have those red and white checkered tablecloths.
The classic, exactly. There's a basket of breadsticks on the table that has probably been there since, I don't know, the frantic unification of Italy in the 1860s.
And they taste like it.
They do. And you sit down and you order the spaghetti bolognese or the fettuccine alfredo, and you think to yourself, ah, yes, I am partaking in the ancient culinary traditions of Italy.
And you are fundamentally lying to yourself.
I'm lying to myself.
You are hallucinating. I mean, look, that whole experience, the red sauce joint, it's a valid cultural institution for sure, mostly in America, though.
Right.
But if we are talking about Italian cuisine with a capital I and a capital C, we have to take that checkered tablecloth and literally just yank it off the table. We need to clear the whole deck.
That is pretty much the mission today. I've got the stack of research here. And honestly, it is heavy. We are talking about arguably the most popular, most beloved, and yet, according to all these sources, the most misunderstood food culture on the entire planet.
It's so misunderstood because it's a victim of its own success. You know, it got exported, it got simplified, and it got turned into a kind of caricature of itself.
A caricature, that's a good word for it.
But when you actually dive into the source material, the history, the chemistry, the agriculture, the reality is so much more interesting. It's not just comfort food. It's a discipline.
That word discipline, it came up so many times in the reading, and that feels, I don't know, it feels counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, I think of an Italian grandmother, a nonna spooning sauce on my plate saying, mangia, mangia, you know, eat, eat. It feels like excess. It feels like love. It doesn't feel like discipline.
And that's the central paradox we really have to unpack today. We think of it as more is more. But the data, the recipes, the history, they all scream less is more. True Italian cuisine is defined by what you don't do.
What you don't do.
It's about restraint. It's about having a tomato that is so perfect, so flavorful, that adding a bunch of garlic to it would be considered an insult.
An insult to the command.
An insult to the tomato.
So today, we're going to try to understand that restraint.
Yeah.
We look at the geography, why the North eats butter and the South eats oil. It's that basic. We're going to look at the history, which is way more chaotic than I ever realized.
Oh, for sure.
And we're going to try and give you, the listener, a shortcut. A way to move from just eating Italian food to actually experiencing the architecture behind it.
We're going to turn you into that annoying person at the dinner table.
Who is that person?
The one who explains why you absolutely cannot put cheese on your seafood pasta.
Yes, that is the goal. We are arming you with culinary snobbery, but the good kind.
The educated kind.
The educated kind.
Yes, yeah.
So let's start with the big picture, the identity crisis. I was reading through the intro of the source material, and it made this really bold claim right off the bat. It said, there is no such thing as Italian cuisine.
It's a provocative statement, isn't it? But historically, it's completely accurate.
How can that be accurate?
You have to remember, Italy, as a concept, is a baby. As a political idea, as a unified nation, it's younger than the United States in a lot of ways.
Right. The Risorgimento, the unification, that was late 1800s.
Exactly. It really only solidified in the late 19th century. So for the vast majority of its history, we're talking literally thousands of years, these people weren't Italians.
So what were they?
They were Venetians. They were Romans. They were Neapolitans, Florentines, Sicilians. And they didn't just have different flags and different dialects.
They didn't like each other.
They hated each other. They were constantly at war. They were trading with completely different empires. Venice was looking east to Byzantium and the spice trade. Sicily was looking south to North Africa and the Arab world. Piedmont, up in the northwest, was looking over its shoulder at France.
So assuming they all eat the same food, it's kind of like assuming a cowboy in Texas eats the same exact thing as a lobsterman in Maine.
Exactly that. But multiply that difference by 1,000 years of separate history.
Wow.
It's what the sources call a federation of regional cuisines. It's a mosaic. They use this wonderful term, campanilismo.
Right, I saw that. It comes from the word for bell tower, campanile.
Precisely. Your identity, and therefore your food, it extends only as far as the sound of your own village's bell tower. If you go 20 miles down the road, the pasta shape changes, the dialect changes, the cheese changes, everything changes.
Okay, but there has to be a common thread, right? I mean, I know a distinct Italian vibe when I taste it. It's not French, it's not Spanish. What is that unification code?
So the sources use this personality code. They call it the Val code. I found this part fascinating. They literally analyze the cuisine as if it were a person.
Like a psychological profile?
Exactly. And the traits they assign to it are confidence, simplicity, and mastery of fundamental.
Confidence in simple ingredients. That was the big one.
Right. Let's think about classic French haute cuisine for a second.
Okay.
It's all about transformation. You take a veal bone, you roast it, you boil it for 12 hours with vegetables, you reduce it down to a glaze, you mount it with butter, you strain it through a fine mesh sieve. You are transforming nature into high art.
You're showing off your technique. It's about the chef's skill.
You are showing that you can dominate the ingredient. Italian cuisine, that Val personality, is the complete opposite, it says. This zucchini is perfect. My job is to slice it, saute it in a little bit of good oil, maybe add some mint, and get out of the way.
That actually sounds so much harder.
It is infinitely harder.
Why, though? Why is that harder?
Because you have nowhere to hide. You have zero margin for error. If you make a heavy, complex French sauce with 20 ingredients, you can mask a mediocre carrot.
Right, you can balance it out.
You can balance the acidity, add some cream, hide the flaws. But if your dish is a caprese salad, and that's just tomato, mozzarella, basil, and oil, if your tomato is mealy and tasteless,
You're done.
the dish fails. It's over.
So the chef isn't a magician creating something from nothing. The chef is more like a curator.
A curator, that's the perfect word. The Val code dictates that the heavy lifting is done in the garden or on the farm, not in the kitchen. It is ingredient-driven. And I know that sounds like a marketing buzzword you see on every menu today.
Farm to table, ingredient driven.
Yeah, all of that. But in Italy, this wasn't a trend. This was a survival mechanism that slowly, over centuries, became a religion.
Ingredient driven. Let's double click on that because it transitions us perfectly into the geography. Because if the food is defined by the ingredient, then the food is defined by the land.
Exactly.
And I think this is where the American perception of Italian food really breaks down. We have this generic idea of Italy. Sunny, rolling hills, olive trees everywhere.
The whole under the Tuscan sun fantasy.
Right. But looking at the map they provided in the research, Italy is a geological nightmare.
Yeah.
In a good way.
It's a wild place. You've got the Alps, some of the highest, coldest peaks in Europe looming over the north. You have the Po Valley, which is this huge, flat, humid, foggy floodplain.
Not exactly sun-drenched.
Not at all. Then you have the Apennine Mountains running down the spine of the country like a zipper. You've got active volcanoes in the south. And you have almost 5,000 miles of coastline surrounding the whole thing.
So the land really dictates the plate. Let's do a tour. Let's start at the top. The north. We're talking Piedmont, Lombardy, Veneto. If I'm sitting down for dinner in Milan in, say, 1850, what am I eating? Because I'm guessing it's not pizza.
If you ask for pizza in Milan in 1850, they will look at you like you are speaking Martian.
Okay.
No, you are in the north. It's cold. It's damp. You are geographically closer to Vienna or Paris than you are to Naples. Olive trees, they hate frost. They don't grow well there.
And no olive oil. That feels like a foundational piece is missing.
Historically, very, very little. The primary cooking fats are butter and lard.
Butter. That is a French thing in my mind.
It's an alpine thing. Think about it. You have high pasture land. You have cows, the famous Bruna Alpina cow. So you naturally have a cuisine based on dairy.
Heavy creams?
Heavy creams, amazing cheeses like Gorgonzola, Taleggio. And for your starch, you aren't growing the right kind of wheat for dried pasta. You're growing corn and rice.
Rice. I feel like most people, myself included, do not associate rice with Italy.
And yet, Italy is the largest rice producer in all of Europe.
Wow.
The Po Valley is basically a perfect, gigantic, marshy floodplain for it. So the iconic dish of Milan isn't pasta, it's risotto. Risotto alla Milanese.
Describe that for me.
It's rich, it's creamy, it's cooked with butter, beef bone marrow, and saffron. It's heavy. It's designed to stick to your ribs on a cold, foggy night.
And the corn.
Polenta.
Right, polenta. Which is, it's basically grits, isn't it?
Careful now, don't let a Venetian hear you say that.
Okay.
But yes, fundamentally, it's cornmeal mush. And for centuries, this was the fuel of the North. It's absolute peasant food. You simmer in a big copper pot for an hour, stirring constantly until your arm falls off.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. And then you serve it with maybe a rich beef stew or some braised sausages. This is winter comfort food. It's
Yeah.
gray skies, fog, and heavy food to keep you warm.
It sounds almost Austrian or German.
It is very Middle Europa, as they say, very Central European. You have dishes like cotoletta alla Milanese, which is a breaded veal cutlet fried in butter.
A Wiener Schnitzel.
It is a very, very close cousin to the Wiener Schnitzel. The borders of food don't stop at the political lines on a map.
Okay, so that's the north. Butter, rice, polenta, cows. Got it. Now we get in our car or, on our donkey, historically.
Yeah.
And we head south. We hit the center. Tuscany, Umbria, Lazio. The vibe must change.
The sun comes out, the hills start rolling. This is the transition zone.
Yeah.
The olive tree finally appears. And here, olive oil is not just an ingredient, it is king. But the defining characteristic of central Italy, especially Tuscany, is a term that I see on fancy menus all the time now. Cucina povera.
Poor kitchen.
Literally poor kitchen. But it's not just about being poor in a monetary sense. It's about a mindset of complete and total resourcefulness. The sources tell this great story about the bread in Tuscany. Have you ever had traditional Tuscan bread?
I have. And I'm going to be honest. It's not great. It tastes like cardboard. There's no salt in it.
It is famously bland. Pane sioco. It means silly bread or saltless bread. And there are a couple of theories as to why. One is that during the endless wars between Florence and Pisa back in the Middle Ages, Pisa controlled the ports and they blocked all the salt shipments to try and squeeze Florence.
A salt blockade. That's intense.
It is. And the Florentines, being incredibly stubborn people, basically said, fine, we don't need your salt, we will bake our bread without it.
What's the other theory?
The other is that the Pope put a really high tax on salt and they just refused to pay it. Either way, it's an act of defiance baked into every loaf.
But bread without salt goes stale in about 20 minutes.
It turns into an absolute rock. So you can't waste food. That's the core principle. What do? You have to invent dishes specifically designed to use rock-hard stale bread. You reboil it.
Ribollita.
Ribollita, literally reboiled. It's a thick soup of beans, kale, specifically cavolo nero, other vegetables, and yesterday's bread, all boiled together until it becomes this thick, delicious porridge.
And panzanella.
Or panzanella in the summer, a salad made of soaked stale bread, tomatoes, and onions. It's genius.
So these dishes that cost like $28 in a Manhattan restaurant were literally invented because people were too cheap to pay the salt tax and too hungry to throw away old bread.
That is the soul of Italian cooking in a nutshell. Nothing is wasted. You eat the beans, you roast the meat simply over a fire. It's rustic, it's bold, it's earthy.
Okay, so we've had our heavy risotto in the north, our resourceful bean soup in the center. Now we keep going south. We hit Naples, Campania, Sicily, the Mezzogiorno, and suddenly the world explodes in color.
This is the Technicolor moment. The sun becomes intense, the soil changes completely, it becomes volcanic. We are now in the shadow of Vesuvius and Etna, and this is absolutely crucial.
Why does the volcano matter? I mean, besides the obvious risk of being incinerated.
Besides the constant looming threat of death, the soil is a miracle. It is unbelievably rich in minerals, potassium, phosphorus, and it's porous, so it drains incredibly well. When you combine that volcanic soil with the intense Mediterranean sun, you get produce with a sugar concentration and an acidity level that you just cannot replicate in a greenhouse in Holland.
This is the home of the San Marzano tomato.
The king of tomatoes. It grows in the volcanic ash on the slopes of Vesuvius. It's naturally sweet, it's less watery, it has fewer seeds, and the skin peels off easily. This is why the South is the land of red sauce, the classic marinara.
And the pasta changes too, right?
Yeah.
No more of those fresh egg noodles from the north.
Right. In the North, pasta is often fresh made with soft wheat flour and eggs, because soft wheat grows well there. In the South, it's hot and dry. They grow durum wheat, hard wheat.
What's the difference?
It's very high in protein and gluten. You mix that with just water, no egg, and you get a dough that is tough, elastic, and most importantly, can be dried.
Ah, which means it can be stored.
It can be stored for years. It's a way to prevent famine, and it has that bite, that texture we call al dente. So the cuisine of the South becomes dried pasta, tomato sauce, olive oil, incredible seafood from the coast, and bright, acidic flavors. Lemon, capers, garlic. It's the Mediterranean diet in its purest form.
It seems like we have to talk about how specific these regions are, though. It's not just these big blocks of north and south. The research kept mentioning microclimates.
Oh, it gets incredibly granular. It's almost absurd. Let's take cured meats for an example. You might go to the supermarket and buy prosciutto.
Right.
But in Italy, prosciutto di Parma and prosciutto di San Daniele are two totally different products, even though they're both just made from pork legs and salt.
How can they possibly be that different if the ingredients are identical?
It's the air. It's literally the air. Parma is in a valley where the moist air from the sea meets the dry air from the mountains. This creates a very specific humidity and a specific microbial environment. The wild yeasts floating in the air that flavor the meat as it cures over months and years.
So it's the terroir of the air.
Exactly. San Daniel is further north, the air is drier, the meat cures differently, it tastes different. You are literally eating the atmosphere of that specific valley.
That is just wild. It's like the ultimate you had to be there experience, but for ham.
It is, and this brings us right to the history, because while the geography sets the stage, the history provides all the plot twists. And I think the biggest plot twist for me in all this research was realizing that traditional Italian food is actually a pretty modern invention.
This is the part that hurts my brain. We have this image, and we assume the Romans were sitting around eating pasta with tomato sauce.
Not a chance, not even close. If you go back to the ancient roots, the Etruscans, the Greeks, the Romans, they had the foundation, what they call the Mediterranean Trinity.
Wheat, wine, and olive oil.
They had that. But their pantry was totally different.
What were they missing?
Basically everything you see on a pizza. Tomatoes? Nope. Peppers? No. Zucchini? Also no.
So Julius Caesar never had a Capri salad?
Never. He probably ate a lot of porridge, a lot of fermented fish sauce called a garum, and roasted meats, maybe with honey. But the flavor profile was completely different from what we think of as Italian today. The food we know is the result of invasions and trade.
Okay, let's talk about the Arabs. The medieval layer. I feel like this is a huge blind spot for most people. We don't think of an Arab Italy.
It is massive, especially in Sicily. Sicily was under Arab rule for roughly 200 years in the Middle Ages, and they utterly transformed the island. They brought sophisticated irrigation systems that allowed for all new crops to grow there.
Like what?
They brought citrus lemons and oranges. They brought artichokes.
And sugar? Right.
Sugar is the big one. Before the Arabs, Europeans sweetened things with honey or maybe concentrated fruit juice. The Arabs brought sugarcane and the technology to refine it. This gave birth to the entire Sicilian obsession with sweets.
So things like cannoli.
Cannoli, cassata cake, marzipan, these are all Arab-influenced pastries. Even the word for sherbet, sorbetto, comes from the Arabic sherbet.
Then spices.
Yes. Cinnamon, saffron, the use of raisins in savory dishes. If you eat pasta con la sarda, classic sardine pasta in Sicily today, it has pine nuts, raisins, and saffron in it. It's sweet and savory at the same time. That is a Middle Eastern flavor profile, perfectly preserved in an Italian pasta dish.
And speaking of pasta, there was a note here about dry pasta technology also coming from the Arabs.
That's the leading theory, yeah. We know the Romans ate fresh pasta sheets, something like lasagna, but dried pasta strings, that technology likely came from Arab caravans.
Why then?
Well, think about it. If you are crossing a desert for weeks, you need food that is light, calorie-dense, and doesn't spoil. Dried dough is the perfect solution. The Sicilians adopted it and then realized it was also perfect for long sea voyages.
So spaghetti started as Bedouin travel food.
Essentially, yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
But the biggest shock, the one that really rewrites the entire menu, has to be the Columbian Exchange.
The New World Shock. 1492. Columbus sails, he comes back, and he unloads a pantry that changes Europe and the world forever. Tomatoes, potatoes, corn, which is maize, bell peppers, chili peppers, cocoa beans.
And the Italians, they were suspicious of him.
They were terrified of them. We have to get into the mindset of a 16th century Italian. They see a tomato for the first time. It's a member of the nightshade family. Deadly nightshade is a common, well-known poison in Europe.
Okay, I can see the resemblance.
The plant smells weird, the fruit looks strange, so they assumed the tomato was poisonous. They called it the pomodoro, the golden apple, and they grew it in their gardens as a purely ornamental plant, a table decoration.
Look at this pretty red fruit. But don't eat it, it will kill you.
Exactly that. It took nearly 200 years for the tomato to become a staple food. And it started with the poor. Cucina povera again. Starving peasants in the South realized, hey, this thing grows like a weed in our volcanic soil, and it tastes really good. But the rich, the aristocracy, they wouldn't touch it for a long, long time.
So Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Dante, None of them ever ate pasta with red sauce.
Never. The entire Renaissance happened without the tomato. It happened without the chili pepper. It's mind-blowing.
And polenta. We talked about the North eating polenta.
Polenta existed before corn, but it was made of things like spelt or barley or chestnut flour. It would have been dark and kind of gritty.
Okay.
Then corn arrives from the Americas. It has a much higher yield. It grows fast. It's cheap. Suddenly, polenta becomes yellow. It becomes the cornmeal dish we know today.
It's amazing because we view tradition as this static, unchanging thing. But this proves that Italian cuisine is actually incredibly adaptive. It's a scavenger.
That is the genius of it. It isn't about purity of origin. It's about purity of execution. They took the tomato and Aztec fruit from Mexico, and they mastered it. They grew it better, they cooked it better, and they integrated it so deeply into their culture that now the tomato is Italy.
And then the final twist in the history is the diaspora, when the Italians left Italy.
The Great Migration. Late 1800s, early 1900s, millions of Italians, mostly from the impoverished South, leave for America, for Argentina, for Brazil. And they take their food memories with them, but they land in America and the ingredients are totally different.
Meat is way cheaper.
Meat is everywhere. In a small village in southern Italy, meat was a luxury. You had it on feast days, maybe once a week if you were lucky. In America, you could have beef every single night.
So the meatballs got huge.
The meatballs got huge. The sauce got much meatier, like a bolognese style. Dishes like spaghetti and meatballs were born. In Italy, you'd probably serve the meatballs as a separate course, the secundo. In America, you just put them right on top of the pasta.
So Italian-American food isn't just fake Italian. It's an evolution of its own.
It's an adaptation dish. It's a completely valid branch on the family tree. And ironically, it helped market and popularize Italian food to the entire world.
Okay, so we've covered the ingredients and the where and the when. Now I want to talk about the how, the actual experience. Because eating in Italy isn't just fueling up. It is a full-blown ritual.
It is the social glue. The sources are very, very clear on this. Food is communication. In a culture that values hospitality above almost everything, feeding someone is the ultimate act of trust and love.
And refusing food is a problem.
Refusing food is genuinely deeply offensive.
And the meal structure itself reflects this ritualistic approach. It's not just, here's dinner, it's a roadmap. I want to walk through the formal Italian meal because I think it explains a lot about how they can eat so much without, exploding.
It's a marathon for sure, but it is expertly paced. You start with the aperitivo.
The opener.
Right. It's a drink, usually something bitter. A Campari, an Aperol Spritz, a Negroni. The bitterness is functional. It's meant to stimulate your gastric juices. It literally opens the stomach to prepare it for food.
Then you move to antipasto.
Before the meal, this is your cured meats, some olives, marinated vegetables, just small bites to wake up the palate.
And then we get to the part that really confuses Americans. The primo, the first course.
The carbohydrate course. This is your pasta, your risotto, your soup, your gnocchi. Now, listen closely, because this is important. Pasta is never a side dish.
Never.
It is a standalone star. You eat your bowl of pasta, you finish it, they take the plate away.
And then the secondo arrives.
The protein. This is your meat or your fish. And because you just had a full course of carbs, this is usually very simple. A piece of grilled fish, a slice of roast beef. It's not a 16-ounce ribeye with a giant pile of mashed potatoes.
And if you want vegetables with that?
You order a contorno, a side dish, and it comes on a separate plate.
Why separate plate? Why not just pile the spinach next to the fish like we do?
It's about flavor integrity. This is that Val personality again. They want you to taste the spinach with its lemon and oil. They want you to taste the fish with its own juices. You don't want a muddy, messy mix of flavors on one plate. Clarity is key.
And finally, we're not done yet.
Not even close. Formaggio e frutta, cheese and fruit, or dolce, a sweet dessert. And then caffè, always espresso.
And the digestivo.
The closer. This is your grappa, your amaro, your limoncello. It's high in alcohol, often herbal. It's meant to help digestion. It settles the stomach after that marathon.
So it's a tremendous amount of food, but it's spread out over...
What?
3-4 hours?
Easily, especially the Sunday lunch. That is a sacred institution. You sit, you talk, you argue, you eat, you digest between courses. It forces you to be present and to slow down.
I want to touch on some of the etiquette rules, because there are definitely some landmines for tourists.
Oh, there are plenty.
The cappuccino rule.
The classic mistake. Do not order a cappuccino after 11 a.m., and you must never, ever order one with a meal.
Why, though? Is it just an arbitrary rule to be difficult?
No, it's about physiology. To an Italian, a cappuccino is a cup of warm milk with a little coffee in it. It's breakfast. It's a meal in itself. If you just ate a heavy meal with garlic and oil and wine, the last thing your body wants is a big cup of hot milk sitting on top of it.
They think it stops digestion.
They believe it curdles in your stomach and stops digestion cold. Espresso is fine. Milk is absolutely forbidden afternoon.
And the bread. You sit down, there's bread on the table.
No butter.
Explain that.
Bread is not a separate course. It's not an appetizer. You don't sit there and fill up on bread and butter before the real food comes. The bread is a utensil. You use the bread to eat the food.
Which leads us to the scarpetta.
The little shoe.
My favorite concept.
It's the best. Taking a piece of bread and mopping up every last bit of the remaining sauce on your plate, it is the highest compliment you could possibly pay the chef. It says, "This sauce was so good, I physically cannot leave any of it behind."
It turns what we might see as gluttony into an act of politeness.
That's the beauty of it.
Okay, let's get into the kitchen, the technique. Because we said earlier that Italian food is simple, but that simplicity is incredibly deceptive.
It's what the sources call simple with precision.
Let's talk about the foundation, the sofrito.
The holy trinity of Italian cooking. Onion, carrot, celery, finely diced. This is the aromatic base of almost every sauce, stew, and soup in Italy. But the technique is absolutely key. You are not frying these vegetables, you are sweating them.
Okay, what is the difference?
Heat control. If you fry them on high heat, they'll brown. That's the Maillard reaction. It creates a specific, toasty, caramelized flavor.
Right.
But for a sofrito, you want them to melt. You cook them on very low heat with oil or butter for a long, long time, 20, 30 minutes, until they become soft and sweet. They almost dissolve into a paste. That provides this deep, sweet, aromatic backbone to the dish that you don't even see, but you can absolutely taste it.
It's like invisible engineering for flavor.
Precisely. If you rush the sofrito, the final sauce will feel hollow and taste of raw onion.
And then, once you have that base, you have your sauces. The sources list the mother sauces of Italy. We always think of the French mother sauces, but Italy has its own set.
For sure. You've got the tomato base, your marinara, or pomodoro, which is the soul of the South. You have the dairy base, like bechamel, which is used in things like lasagna, especially in the north.
Okay.
You have the simple aglio e olio, just garlic and oil, which is an emulsion. And then you have the ragu, the slow-cooked meat-based sauces.
Let's talk about that word emulsion, because the sources really highlight this as the secret weapon of great pasta. This is why restaurant pasta tastes so much better than what I often make at home.
This is the big chemistry lesson. Emulsification is just the process of mixing two liquids that don't normally want to mix. Oil, which is a fat, and water.
They usually separate, right? You see the oil floating on top.
Exactly. But if you agitate them, if you whip them together, and you have binding agent, they can form a creamy, stable suspension. In pasta, the secret binding agent is starch.
From the pasta water.
From the liquid gold. When you boil pasta, it releases starch granules into the water. That cloudy water is magic. If you take your pasta out of the water just before it's fully done, you put it in a hot pan with your sauce, which is the fat, and you add a ladle of that starchy water, and then you toss it vigorously.
The tossing motion is important.
It is vital. You are whipping air into it and agitating everything. The starch molecules bond with the fat and the water to create this creamy, glossy coating that clings perfectly to every single noodle. It's not oily, it's a unified sauce.
So if I drain my pasta in a colander in the sink and let all that starchy water go down the drain.
You have committed a culinary crime. You have thrown away the most important ingredient for your sauce.
And this connects to the concept of al dente.
To the tooth. It's all about texture. Italians are completely obsessed with texture. Pasta shouldn't be soft and mushy. It should fight back a little bit. It should have a bite.
Is there a health reason for that, or is it just feel?
There actually is. Al dente pasta has a lower glycemic index. It digests more slowly because the gluten network is still tight and hasn't broken down completely. But primarily, it's sensory. It feels alive in your mouth. Mushy pasta feels, well, it feels dead.
The sources use this metaphor here that I really love. They called it the mountain climbing metaphor.
Yes. Cooking Italian food is like climbing a mapped route on a famous mountain. In modern fusion cooking, you're an explorer. You're hacking through the jungle with a machete, making it up as you go.
Creating a new path.
But in traditional Italian cooking, the route is set. Everyone knows the recipe for carbonara. It's been climbed a million times.
So where's the creativity in that?
The creativity is in the execution. It's in the perfection of the form. It's like a gymnast performing a set routine. The routine is known, but how you stick the landing, the grace and precision you show, that's where the mastery lies. You have to respect the terrain, which is the ingredients. If you slip on the sofrito, you fall. If you break the emulsion, you fall off the mountain.
That makes the chef less of an inventor and more of a virtuoso.
A disciplined practitioner. That's it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Before we get to the final exam, which is the carbonara,
Yeah.
I want to play a quick game of myth busting. We just need to clear up some common misconceptions.
Let's do it. Fire away.
Myth number 1. Italian food is unhealthy. It's just heavy carbs and cheese, and it will make you fat.
Fact. False. In fact, the true Mediterranean diet is consistently studied as one of the best for health and longevity. Yes, they eat pasta, but the portion size is key. A primo portion is maybe 80 to 100 grams of pasta. That's a small handful. It is not the giant bucket of noodles you get at an American chain restaurant.
Right.
Plus, the real diet is huge on legumes, chickpeas, lentils, beans, and fresh vegetables, and healthy fats like olive oil.
Okay. Myth number 2. Italian food is spicy.
Fact. Mostly false. With the one big exception of Calabria, the toe of the boot, where they love their chili pepper, the peperoncino, most Italian food is focused on aromatics, not heat. Basil, parsley, sage, rosemary. They want you to taste the main ingredient, not burn your tongue off.
Myth number 3. Garlic.
Yeah.
Italians put garlic in absolutely everything.
Fact. False. This is a huge American-Italian stereotype. In Italy, garlic is used, but it's used with restraint. Often they will crush a whole clove, saute it in the oil to infuse the oil with flavor, and then remove the garlic clove before serving.
Really?
Yeah, they call it vestito garlic in its jacket. They want the subtle essence, not the pungent, raw chunks of it everywhere.
Okay, final one. It's number 4. Chicken Parmesan is a classic Italian dish.
Fact. It absolutely does not exist in Italy. If you ask for chicken parm in Florence, they will be very, very confused. They have melanzane alla parmigiana, which is eggplant parmesan, and it's delicious.
But not chicken.
But breading a chicken breast, frying it, and covering it in cheese and sauce, that is a purely American invention, born from the diaspora.
Okay, we have cleared the myths. We understand the chemistry. Now it is time for the gateway dish. The source material suggests that one dish stands above all others as the ultimate test of a cook's Italian soul.
Spaghetti alla carbonara.
Why this dish? Why not a complex lasagna? Why not pesto?
Because carbonara is the ultimate high-wire act of simplicity. It has 4 main ingredients, plus the pasta: guanciale, pecorino romano cheese, eggs, and black pepper. That is it. There are no herbs to hide behind. There is no tomato sauce to cover up your mistakes.
Let's break down those components because they are critical. First, guanciale.
Cured pork jowl, or cheek. This is non-negotiable for the purists. Many people at home use pancetta, which is cured belly, or even bacon, which is smoked belly. But the cheek has a different fat structure. It's a harder fat. When you render it slowly, it releases this pure, intensely savory liquid fat that becomes the vehicle for the entire sauce.
And it's not smoked.
Crucially, it's not smoke. Smoke is a completely different flavor profile and doesn't belong here.
Next, pecorino romano.
Sheep's milk cheese from the region of Rome or Sardinia. It is salty, it is sharp, it is aggressive. Parmesan or Parmigiano Reggiano is cow's milk, and it's nuttier and sweeter. Carbonara needs that sharp, funky punch of the sheep cheese to cut through all that rich fat.
The pepper.
Black pepper. And it has to be freshly cracked. It needs to be coarse. The dish's name, carbonara, literally comes from the word carbonara, which means charcoal burner. The black specks of pepper are supposed to look like coal dust. It provides the heat.
And finally, the eggs. And this is where the big controversy lies.
The eggs. Usually it's just the yolks for richness, maybe one whole egg for a slightly lighter texture. And here's the rule that we must tattoo on our foreheads. There is no cream.
Why are people so tempted to add cream to it?
Because it's a shortcut. It's a safety net. Making a creamy sauce with just raw eggs is hard. If you get the pan too hot, the eggs scramble instantly. You have breakfast, not pasta. If you add cream, it's very easy to make it smooth and stable.
But it's cheating.
It is.
Huh.
But worse than that, it makes the dish heavy, it makes it cloying, and it completely dulls the sharp flavor of the cheese and the pork.
So talk me through the technique. The mountain climb of carbonara.
Okay. Step 1. You render the guanciale in a cold pan. Low and slow. You want to get all that glorious fat out and make the meat itself crispy. Then you remove the meat, but you keep that rendered fat in the pan.
Okay.
Step 2. You boil your pasta in salty water. Step 3. In a separate bowl, you mix your egg yolks, your finely grated pecorino, and a ton of black pepper. You make a thick paste out of it.
Step 4.
The landing. This is the hard part. The pasta is done al dente. You use tongs to transfer it directly into the pan with the hot pork fat. You toss it to coat every strand. Now, the most important part, turn the heat off. Move the pan completely off the burner.
Why?
Because egg yolks coagulate. They turn solid at around 150 to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. If that pan is still 200 degrees from the burner, you will get scrambled eggs. You need the residual heat of the pasta itself to gently cook the eggs into a custard, not a solid.
So you pour the egg and cheese mixture in.
You pour it in and you mix like crazy. You have to move fast. You add a small splash of that starchy pasta water to help the emulsion form. You whip it all together. The eggs cook gently. The cheese melts. The water binds it all. And then suddenly, it's magic. You have this glossy, golden, impossibly creamy sauce that coats every single strand.
And no cream in sight.
Just technique.
Yeah.
Just discipline and an understanding of chemistry.
That is the perfect summary of everything we've talked about today. It's the simplest ingredients, but it requires understanding the science and respecting the rules of the road.
Exactly. When you nail a carbonara, you haven't just cooked dinner. You have performed a cultural ritual. You've proved you have that Val personality. Confidence and control under pressure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is the big takeaway? We've gone from the Alps down to the volcanoes, from the ancient Arabs to modern-day Americans.
I think the takeaway is that Italian cuisine is a living paradox. It's ancient, but it's also modern. It is incredibly rigid in its rules, but it's been surprisingly adaptive throughout its history. But mostly it's a philosophy. It is a philosophy that says, nature did the hard work, the farmer did the hard work. My job as the cook is simply not to screw it up.
It's humility, really.
It is culinary humility.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought that came from the end of the research stack. We talked about how the tomato was an import that over time became a traditional symbol of Italy.
Right. It was a foreign invader.
So if Italian culture is actually about adaptation and absorption, what is happening right now? What foreign ingredient is currently creeping into Italian kitchens that will be considered traditional in the year 2126?
That is the fascinating question, isn't it? We are seeing fusion. We are seeing things like miso being used by very high-end Italian chefs.
Miso, Japanese fermented soybean paste.
Think about it. What is miso? It's pure umami. It's savory and salty. What is Parmesan cheese? It's pure umami. They actually pair incredibly well. A little bit of white miso in a ragu boosts the meatiness in a way that is hard to describe.
Wow.
It's not traditional yet, by any means, but in 100 years, who knows? A traditional Roman miso carbonara might be the standard.
I can hear the purists screaming in agony right now.
The grandmothers are rolling in their graves. But that is how history works. The tomato was an alien once. The chili pepper was an alien. Tradition is just an innovation that won the test of time.
That is a beautiful way to put it. So here is my challenge to you, the listener.
Yeah.
This week, don't try to cook a fancy 20-ingredient meal. Go the other way.
Restraint.
Cook a meal with just 3 main ingredients, but spend the extra money to get the best version of those 3 ingredients you can possibly find. Get the good cheese, get the real guanciale, get the bronze die-cut pasta, and see if you can make them sing just by listening to what they need.
Respect the terrain. Climb the mountain.
It's exactly. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you at the next table. Ciao.
Buon appetito.